The first question I have is in chapter 2, Welcome to the Pleasure Matrix. And you talk about the second axial age. I'm wondering if you describe that and go into a little bit more detail about this second axial age.
Yeah, well, that's interesting that you asked that, because this is really a critical part of the whole story about that this book is motivated by and addresses. And it actually starts with the first axial age, which Karl Jaspers, who was apparently a philosopher and I think a psychiatrist, and he coined the term the Ochsenzeit, which he was German, of course, and meaning this pivotal axial age where things turned abruptly from 800 to 200 BCE. And that's when people moved from being in a tribal situation in individual tribes, basically isolated, into their own worldview. And they started to congregate in cities and urban environments. And that brought them into sharp contrast with other views. And they had to come to terms with that. So it was a challenging time where you might have a certain idea about your tribe and how men and women should behave and children should be raised. And then you would meet another tribe that had a different approach. And out of all of that tumult came the basic religions and cultural structures that we live with today, from basically Judaism and Zoroastrianism in the West, and then Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism in the East. And we are still operating under that matrix, as it were.
Okay.
But now, once again, disparate groups of people around the world are coming back into an encounter with each other.
Mm-hmm.
As, for example, our American society and Middle Eastern society, Christians and Muslims and Jews and so on and so forth, and the Asians as well. And so again, we are being challenged with different worldviews, different ways of living, and it's creating a lot of confusion and unrest and conflict. And out of this conflict, new forms of social organization, new mythos will arise. But I think we're just at the beginning of it. So this is the second axial age. And that's not just my thought, but others who study these things and know much more about it suspect the same is occurring. So yes, and with this shift, it's a opportune time to talk about how do we relate to our human lives, and much of that has to do with pleasure, hence the book. So yeah, great. That's a terrific question.
Do you see this as like an evolutionary process for mankind?
I like to think that way. I like to think that we have, in fact, made progress in how we live with one another,
Right.
both in our nation states and internationally.
Yes.
And now we're faced with this next step, because our technology has empowered us to do so much.
Yes.
But our technology hasn't done nearly as much for the development of the human heart and the human spirit. So in some respects, we're like children with loaded weapons, automatic weapons that could destroy each other, um, and how are we going to manage? And so I think, yes, we need to evolve,
Uh-huh.
and that next level I've called Homo spiritualis.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that. I like the terminologies. I like that in the book you relate to the core of words, and you talk about where that, Latin root comes from. You do that again and again in the book. I like that. It makes it a very interesting and sort of a timeless way of looking at the structure of what the meaning is behind a word.
Yeah, yes, the etymology, and it's part of, as I say in the book, this is kind of like going on a journey, and I'm kind of like the backcountry guide. When you go on a backpacking trip and you look at your map, you need to identify where you are here on the map. But in order to know where I am starting from, I also have to know where did I start from? And that's the origin. So starting with the origin, figuring out where I am now, then we can begin to think about, okay, where are we headed?
Yes.